Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Psyched to be with you. With me, your host, Christopher Leach, aka Chimp195. We're back, episode 3 of season 4. This is possibly one of the most star-studded episodes we've had on the card before. I'm tremendously excited and privileged to share the digital stage with my guest today. And if you don't recognize them immediately, I'm going to say that one's on you. Where have you been for the past 10 years at this point? My very special guest, if you could please introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hello, my name is Doug Cockle. I'm an actor and a professional voice actor as well in video games, and you might know me best as Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher video game series.
So already incredible. I feel like we've got a lot we could talk about, and I'm not quite desperate, but I know you talk about The Witcher a lot, so I want to
I
kind of
do.
touch on that a little bit, but not too much, right? So that's
Okay.
I'm gonna do my best. So let's break it down and start to start. You co-authored, featured in a book that I was in at the back end of 2023, technically, the Zeitgeist of Pop Culture, The Witcher. You wrote a chapter on embodying Geralt and what that was like. Do you want to give us a little tease on a bit more about that chapter?
Oh, well, first of all, I was really, really uh, honored and excited and daunted when Rachel, the editor of the book is Rachel Coward, and when she asked me to be part of the project, I was like, wow, thank you so much for asking. And also, I have no idea what I could possibly contribute to this because I'm not a researcher. And she was looking for primarily for individuals who um, are early stage researchers or experienced researchers who wanted to explore an aspect of psychology in the Witcher world, and she'd already approached a number of people and she was telling me about it, and I was like, this sounds really, really cool, Rachel, but this isn't what I do. It's not really my thing, and I don't know if I want to try to make it my thing. And she was like, okay, um but how about if you just write like an introduction or something? And so we talked about it, and eventually we came upon this idea about the idea of embodying a character, and my experience of embodying Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher video game series. And I was all too happy to write about that. But even so, when I sat down to actually begin writing, I was like, I don't even know where to start. It's that old blank page conundrum when you're
Mm-hmm.
writing something, whatever it is. That blank page is really, really almost threatening. It stares back at you and you're just like, rah!
For
So,
what it's worth, I felt very much the same when Rachel asked
mm,
me to write something for the book, and I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a swing, boss." You know what I mean? And I
yeah.
randomly chose ethics for no reason. It's not my field of study. I was like, this they talk about this in the books." I think the most striking thing from, because I did read your chapter, I'll profess. Um, One of the things that surprised me was that when you auditioned for the role, the books hadn't been translated into English. The Netflix show was but a dream. Like, so to have, in my view, crafted the characters, your literal voice that we now know as iconic, if you'll pardon me using the term, um, with no source material. I will frame this as a question. It's not just a comment. Don't worry.
No, that's okay.
How do you think someone maybe going for a role with a character, say they were starting from scratch, right, and someone who had all this source material to go off, how do you think that might change the way you approached the character?
If I'd had the source material,
Mm-hmm.
well, it depends on the source material. If I'd had the Witcher Netflix series, I would have gone in very, very daunted because Henry Cavill does such a fantastic job of playing Geralt. Um, I mean, it would have been a template for me as well, and I would have used that and then tried very much to do my own thing, but in a similar kind of vein. Um, if I'd had the books, I mean, it's always hard to say. It's always what would you have done if you had known blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, I don't know is the answer really, because how do you know what you would choose to do? Uh, Having the books would have been really helpful, but I was very fortunate in that the developers, when we were recording Witcher 1, they knew the books inside and out because they're Polish. They read the books in Polish, and they already had concept art for Geralt and the world around him that they were able to share and explain it to me. So I actually I didn't have the source material, but I had the next best thing. I had really, really passionate fans of the books telling me about the world of The Witcher that they were making. So yeah, I didn't have some of the things, but I did have the next best thing, really.
Hmm.
You know,
And to flip that on its head, and it's a joke on this show that I flare with all my guests, so I'm kind of doing that very early on in this one. But like, how does it feel to be known as the voice of Geralt? Like, The Witcher is it's just a huge franchise. So many people are passionate and love it. What's that
yeah.
like? Can you kind of explain that for us a little bit?
Uh, it's a really good question. Um, I suppose I don't think about it very often. I just get on with doing my thing, living my life and doing my thing. Um, it can be surreal, because I suppose because even though I trained as an actor, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted, some part of me must want attention. You know? Um, but I still to this day find it amazing when people come up to me when they know who I am, and they come up to me and they say, how much they love my work and how important The Witcher is to them. And and I'm only part of that experience. I don't look anything like Geralt, obviously. I provided the voice, but voice is so important. It's so important to our understanding of a person and a character and everything else. So I find it odd. It can be a bit surreal, and yet at the same time very joyous. I have yet to have and I hope this isn't going to encourage some weirdo to be weird on me,
Please
but
don't do it.
uh, I have yet for anybody to come up to me and go, "You played Witcher in the video games. You played Geralt in the video games. I hated your performance. You suck." Nobody does that. And if they do, I'd probably, go, "Well, thank you very much. Who do you like?"
Hmm.
Because it's, you know, why would anybody do that? But, my experience of being Geralt has been almost entirely positive. The negative parts of it are so small and so insignificant, they're almost not worth mentioning. And they're things like, really silly little things that are very controllable, things like people who I've never met before sliding into my DMs on social media and asking me questions, sometimes um sometimes questions I wouldn't answer if they were my friend.
Hmm.
Um,
Or like,
so
would
people
you want to be on my podcast?
Well, that's different though. That's different because, partly because when you approached me, it was from a standpoint of, hey, we did this book together and, and I'm a fan of The Witcher and, would you like to come and chat with me about it? That's perfectly fine and acceptable and everything else. It's sometimes when you get DMs where people just expect you to drop everything and, send them a video message to their grandma or something like that. And I'm just like, well, dude, I have a life, and you get
Hmm.
30 or 40 of those a day, and you're just like, really sorry. Yeah. And I just stopped looking. I stopped looking at my DMs at a certain point. Um, but I have to look at them because I do get requests from people who are, uh, you know, I don't want to say legitimate. That's not quite the right word, but um, you know, people from people like yourself who have a legitimate connection and and want to do something that actually I really enjoy doing podcasts. I really enjoy talking with people about The Witcher and about my work and about their work and what they love about The Witcher and everything else. So it's it's always really fun. I think I just probably made it sound like I don't like fans. It's not that
No,
at all.
no,
I love fans.
it's worth.
It's the overeager fans who don't even realize they're doing it most of the time, and they overstep a line that just makes it a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit like, mm,
So
you
this is
just
a
think
this is a big
I'm here
thing
to
in
answer
like
your DMs,
convention spaces, and I know several people who sort of talk on the area, like
Mm,
Dr. B from Take This, and Tiny Depressed has spoken about it a lot and stuff, like about parasocial relationships, right? Both within the content creator space, but also with someone like yourself who is you are known as this character who's hugely popular,
mm,
and I think that people spend 100 hours with Geralt, quote unquote, on Witcher 3. They will have the false impression that they might think that they know you, and that's not true.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
entirely removed from that. And I'm going to pick my words carefully. To a degree, I can logically understand that, maybe because I
Yeah.
do too
And
much
so can I. So can I.
psychology, but that doesn't make it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Parasocial relationships. I've only just seen that phrase um somewhere. Some friends of mine were at PAX Unplugged recently, and there was a panel about parasocial interactions
Hmm.
there, and I didn't get to see it, but I was like, parasocial. What does that mean? What is that about? But you're absolutely right. It is that feeling, or at least a part of it, I guess, is about that feeling of if you spend hours and hours and hours with a character who you grow to love, then some of that attachment to that character is then transferred on to the performer. And I mean, it's easier, much easier to do that with a television or film personality because their face is the character.
Hmm.
For me, it's a little bit easier to hide. So, because I don't, when I go out in public, people don't generally uh, recognize me because when they think of Geralt, they think of Geralt, the video game character, and what he looks like, and I look nothing like him.
Hmm.
So I have the blessing of a certain amount of anonymity. But I think that also means that sometimes when those parasocial events happen, they're maybe a little bit more surprising because they don't happen all that often, to be honest.
Hmm.
Um, but when they happen, I'm just like,
No, that's fair. I think one of the things the aim of this show is not just to talk about what we do, but why we do it, right? Because we're so easy
mm,
we define ourselves by our job titles, and unless you are a D&D or a role, role playing game type character, being defined by your job slash class is not necessarily the most helpful thing. So can we go into a little bit maybe about like how you realized you wanted to get into acting and how you got there, how you got to where you are now?
sure, yeah. Um, well, how I got into acting is it depends on the angle you want to take, I suppose. My mom, she passed away now, but she always used to say that I was kind of from a very early age, I was a performer. I used to
Mm-hmm.
put on shows for my parents. Me and my little sister, we used to put on shows. They were terrible, but it was us performing, and I was almost always the ringleader of that activity. And I used to write songs, and I used to, I there was a natural performer in me from a very early age, and I think among other things, I think one of the important triggers that actually set me on this path was my sister, my younger sister again. She was part of this thing called governor's school in the US. Good students got to do governor's school and you go and you do cool stuff. I never got to do it because I was never a good student. Um, and she got to do this play and she was on stage doing her thing and people were laughing at what she was doing and enjoying it. And I think some part of me got jealous, and I was like, "I want that. I want some of that." And it just kinda stuck with me in my head, and I mean, I'm thinking of multiple things now, but, you know, I took dance classes for a while when I was a kid. Never quite got into it, but I enjoyed it. Um, I did drama in high school, and I took an extra morning class to do drama. So I got up at, like, 5:30 in the morning to be at a
Oof.
7 AM class because I really wanted to do drama, and I didn't even know why, I just wanted to do it. So I did that. My parents took me to a couple plays when I was growing up, and I really enjoyed it. I went and saw Les Mis at the National Theater in Washington, DC, and it blew me away. And I think somewhere in amongst all those things, little seeds were being planted. And I originally got into university as a pre-medicine biology major. I was going to be a doctor.
Okay.
I had these grand visions of myself, in the future curing cancer in the womb. I did actually want to do that. I read this article in the library at the university I was at when I was a freshman, and it was all about genetic engineering and how genetic engineering was going to shape the future in so many different ways, and not bad ways, in good ways. And one of the articles I read was it was a theory about being able to extract a teeny tiny bit of a baby's DNA from through amniocentesis, where you stick the needle into the womb and you take out a little bit of the amniotic fluid. And through the amniotic fluid, you could extract a teeny bit of DNA and analyze it for um, uh, genetic predispositions to disease.
Hmm.
And they were just starting to map the genomes, and they were just starting to get an idea about how DNA and RNA interact in that very particular way. And I'm not a scientist now, so I could be saying things that are a little bit wrong. You know, disclaimer here. I'm not a biologist. I am not a doctor. I'm
Please don't
trying to
take
remember.
any advice off this show. Don't like just
Do
as a
not,
blanket.
do not. No, no. There was a time once when I was very, very interested in it, and I read this article, and and it just struck me. And they were talking about simple things like male pattern baldness. That could be cured because they knew it was hereditary. That they could stop it. Not that it's a big deal or anything, but they were also talking about other diseases like MS or cerebral palsy, or other diseases where they didn't know exactly why they happened, or whether they were hereditary or not. Could we go into the womb, identify a predisposition in an unborn child, and and a predisposition to cancer, for example, specific kind of cancer, and could they then alter alter that DNA just enough so that that predisposition no longer was there,
Hmm.
insert it back into the womb while the baby's still developing, with the idea that the fetus picks up the altered gene, and that gene then like sends a signature to the other genes in the baby, and then it develops into this person who is born and does not have that predisposition. And I just thought this was amazing, partly because I had cancer as a kid, and having gone through all of that and knowing other kids who died of childhood cancer, it was this idea I had in my head that I would grow up to cure childhood cancer. So what did I do? I didn't do very well in chemistry, and started looking at my life and went, "You know what? I don't know that this is actually my future." Somewhere along the line, I kind of decided I don't think I have the predisposition in my own psyche to do what it's going to take to become a doctor and become that specialist and do those things. I think maybe that's not actually me. I think I might be an actor. And so it literally was. It was like a turn on a dime. Um, I got into I went to community college for my freshman year. I got into universities, but the ones I got into for various reasons, they just became not viable
Hmm.
um, economically, in terms of tuition and living expenses and everything else. So I lived at home for my first year of university, and I went to community college, and that's when I kind of went, hmm. But I got into into a university called Virginia Tech as a pre-medicine biology major. And over the summer between that freshman and sophomore year, I went to visit the campus with a girlfriend at the time. And we were just walking around the campus, and I walked past the performing arts building, and something just kind of went, huh, you need to go in there, Doug. So I went into the performing arts building, and it was summertime, so there were no regular classes, but the feeling of the place, it was just like, ooh, something feels right here. This
Mm.
feels right. And what I'm, thinking about doing here next year doesn't feel so right anymore, but this feels right. And so I changed my major, and I just never looked back. And yeah, my dad he's famously for me. I called him up. I called my parents, and my dad is at the time he was still in the Marine Corps. He was a Marine Corps officer, career. And I said, yeah, guys, I think I'm gonna change my major, become an actor. And there was this kind of silence on the other end of the phone. And then my dad said, hmm, okay, well, just be careful, son. Those people lead an alternative lifestyle. And it
Okay.
wasn't meant, it wasn't meant, alternative, like, in terms of, uh, my gender identification or my sexuality or anything like that. It was just, actors they don't work 9 to 5 jobs.
Hmm.
They don't, it's not an easy career path to follow. That's what he was saying. Um, and I came from a family where everybody worked the 9 to 5 job, very blue collar. My dad was, I don't know, is military officer white collar? It probably is. But it was, I came from a history of people who had all worked 9 to 5 blue collar or white collar jobs. And the idea that I was going to become an actor was just like, hey, we have no idea how to support you in this,
Hmm.
other than to say we love you and go for it.
Which I
Uh,
think, is by and large all you need from a family,
it's the best thing you can give to a kid. Yeah, it's just unconditional love and support. And, even if that support is purely go. I don't know how you do this thing you want to do, but go do it. And when you hit those bumps in the road, come back and we'll give you a hug, and then we'll send you back out to see if you can get over those humps again.
I have a weird, like, not weird, but like a resonance to that story because I also actually at one point as a child wanted to be a genetic engineer.
Oh, interesting.
Because I'm a person with albinism. I was like, wow, this is genetically different. I also had grand ambitions about trying to make Pokemon real, but I was 12, so those two
Oh, there
things
you
don't
go. Yeah.
necessarily equate. Um, then ended up doing media in like 16 to 18 education in the UK. So we
Mm.
call it college, which is below university. That's geographical things, and then ended up going into psychology because I was always thinking about what people do and why. The tagline for the show, and then just ended up going in sort of the more hardcore science stuff. But like I had that that love for media and film, and that's why I do this and streaming and that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at a time I was doing loads of science, lots of biology, but like again, similar to yourself, it just didn't feel quite right. And then when I found sort of that psychology was a field, I was like, oh no, wait, does everyone else not think about this all the time? It turns out people don't. It's actually quite a unique cookie flavor. And then I was like, yep, my heart's set on this, and I haven't looked back.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? How, how we see ourselves at different points in life can shift like that.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, for me, it was literally on a dime. It was, one, not literally one day, but it was a very short turnaround. I was going to be a doctor, and then no, I'm not. I'm going to be an actor, and I mean, they couldn't really be much more different, unless except for that old joke. Is there a doctor in the house? No, but I play one on television. That kind of thing. Um,
I remember mine really clearly, and it was like our tutor had said, right, your university application deadline is in 3 weeks. We're gonna start filling them out. I went home and had a 3 hour conversation with my mother and went, I don't think I can do media. I don't think I can do it as a career. I can't.
mm,
I don't. It doesn't feel right. What else can I do? And at the time, I was like, law is interesting, and I think about people all the time. Is there a job in that? And found a course that was forensic psychology, criminal psychology, and criminal justice, and went
oh, cool.
cool. And similarly, my mum was like, son, I know nothing about psychology. You're one of the few people I know that maybe read like books about Freud for fun. Go for it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think in the UK, it's harder as well because in the US, when you go to university, you have so much opportunity to change your direction because most universities in the US, you declare a major. Some don't even let you declare a major until your sophomore year. So you go in and you do all these core requirements. You do English 101, math 101, psychology 101, biology 101. You do all these basic multidisciplinary subjects, and then you gradually build up a specialism in your 4 years usually at university in the US. And here in the UK, you effectively declare a major straight away, and you don't do any core disciplines. You go straight in and you study your subject for 3 years, and you come out knowing a hell of a lot about your subject. Sorry, hope the hell's okay. Um,
I've had worse profanity. Don't worry.
okay. Um, yeah, so it's a very different university experience, and I always, I've taught a lot at university here in the UK as well, and I kind of feel a bit sorry for kids sometimes in the UK because I I ran a BA honors acting course for 12 years, and every single year there were at least a few kids who and they went as well. They would come to me or one of the other tutors and they'd say, I suddenly I'm discovering maybe I'm not actually that good at this because they were a big fish in a small pond at college or, sixth form. And then they come to university and they're with all these other people who've auditioned to get into this course. And there's some good talent there. And they suddenly go, yeah, I'm not quite as good as I thought, or I don't enjoy this as much as I thought. And in the UK, it's so hard to shift your focus once you've already been through a certain amount of time in that first year of university. You either have to go back to the beginning and start again. So you start your 3 years of university over again in a new subject, or you just carry on and take the lumps and then hope that you can go on to grad school and do something you enjoy more. Where
Yeah,
in the
it's
US, you can change your major, like, you know, so for some people, depending on what you've done, you can change it right up until your senior year of university.
one of my kind of, I'm gonna say gripes, just like, but there's a big pressure on, and I'll get straight into the politics. I don't care. It because of capitalism. There's a big pressure on universities, put pressure on sixth forms and colleges to create that pipeline. So you're kind of expected to know if you want to go to university and what you want to commit your future to at like 16. Because like, oh well, if you want to get on, say, biology, to use your example, you need to do that at A level. So you have to pick that. If you don't, you've got no chance of getting on. Medicine
Yeah,
is a 5 year program here, but if you don't do the correct pre courses, you won't get on. And that's a
yeah,
huge pressure to put on someone who, when I was like 15, barely knew how to tie my own shoes, let alone what I want to do for a career. And I'm a big fan of people taking, years away from the education system to, really think about what they actually want to do. Because at the end of the day, you'll, in
mhm,
my view, hopefully have a much better life and a happier career, you know?
yeah. I value my undergraduate education in the US. I mean, I knew what I wanted to do, but I was still, at 18. 19, 20, 21, I was still bumbling through life. I was trying to work out, I didn't know what being a professional actor was really going to be like or what it really meant. It just sounded good. It sounded like the thing I wanted to be. And I felt good when I was doing it. Uh, so yeah, I think in the UK, I think it's a disservice to young people actually that we force them into this, it forced them to streamline themselves at such a young age. You can go back even earlier, when they're 14, they're doing their GCSEs and they still have to make choices that impact what they can then do at A level.
Hmm.
And I just think it's such a shame that we make them make those choices so young because they still don't even know who they are. Or maybe some of them do, but the vast majority of people when they're, younger than 18, they don't know who they are. They don't know what they really like. They're bumbling through life just like everybody else.
And the joy is finding that out. Like, people talk about
Yeah.
going to uni to get the chance to grow because you're away from home and you have,
Yeah.
you have your freedom, quote unquote. And like, there's a lot of pressure then on, but like, okay, well, I've got to actually study for this degree because this is gonna set me for my entire career.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm very lucky with what I did, but like, yeah, I personally think there's way too much pressure on people. So I think
Yeah.
to then kind of flip this a little bit, what is it that keeps you going as an actor?
What keeps me going? Well, I have to confess, and I don't think there's a single out actor out there in the world anywhere who doesn't have a strong dose of narcissism in them. Um, I mean, we've all got a bit of narcissus in our system, but I think actors, any performer, you don't become a performer if you don't want to be watched.
Mm,
So I think that there is a part of my psyche that wants to be observed, that wants to be noticed. And so what part of what keeps me going is when I am observed, when I am noticed, in a positive way, mostly. It's not nice to be noticed and then told you're stupid or you're no good or you can't do this. You're terrible at whatever you've just done. That's terrible.
mm-hmm,
That's gut wrenching and horrible. And it does happen to everybody occasionally. So I think what keeps me going is the positive affirmations that I do get. I think this is true for everybody. You find something you're good at and people say to you, "You're good at this," or "That was a really good job. You did really well with that." And a little person inside us jumps for joy and says, "Yay, they like me. They like what I did." And so I think that's partly what keeps me going is that when I when I do work that I feel good about and someone says, "Yay, that was a good job." I go, "Yay!" And that makes me want to do it again.
mm-hmm.
It's a drug. Life is a drug, man.
No,
It is.
it's true. I wouldn't say I'm a performer. I'll put my hands up to that. But from when I've done stuff like panels at PAXs, there is something
Yeah.
incredibly intoxicating around like making a joke and an entire room laughing.
Yeah.
Like, oof.
And the whole adrenaline of it as well, the nerves before you go on, and then you get up there and you're still nervous, and then, and then like you say, you do something and people approve, um, uh, and then you get down off that stage, off that panel, and there's a buzz,
And I
and you
think
and you feel it.
there's the other way as well. I mean, I've confessed many times publicly, but like when I saw like the final proof of the book, before it went out, I shed a few tears. I was so proud. I was so happy to see like my name
Yeah,
amongst all these other incredible people. Something that I wrote, like I put effort into and I cared about. Like
yeah,
when I can see a childhood version of me being like, so you're being told, why would you want to ever write anything about video games? They're not important, and then being able to write about
yeah.
this incredible fantasy series, wild, you know.
Yeah, and it's fascinating as well, the evolution of games and gaming, particularly video games, but also things like Dungeons and Dragons. Because when I was growing up, the people who enjoyed video games were geeks and dorks, and the cool people were the people who were the sporting elite, or the academic elite, although they were still kind of dorky as well. But we had these classifications for people, and how important they were to school society or whatever. And people who were into gaming were really low on that totem pole.
Hmm.
Um, and that's shifted almost entirely. Now, gaming is really cool. And people are starting to recognize the benefits of gaming in a way that they didn't recognize them before as well. And perhaps we didn't even think about it. I always loved playing games when I was a kid. What a wonderful escape. But, when I was growing up, the messages I was getting about gaming was that it's a waste of time. Why are you spending your time on playing these stupid games? They don't do anything for you. No, they didn't create a tangible object that could be looked at. They didn't create a paper or money or the things that we tend to value in society. They didn't create those, but they created a feeling of good in me.
Hmm.
And you know the intangible benefits of gaming were always there, and we're only just now really starting to understand what those are and how they work. And it's still a funny thing. I remember growing up in Dungeons and Dragons. They were mm, you know the Christian right was like, "Oh, these evil doers playing Dungeons and Dragons, they're all gonna become killers and weirdos and psychos, and they're all playing these games in the sewers and stuff." And I don't think that was ever even real. I think somebody made that up. But that
We love a good moral panic on this podcast. It
oh my
feels so
god, it was
much.
just
My favorite go to is that, like, in ancient Greece they were worried about writing, that people were starting to write, because they were like, no one will use their brain. If people write stuff down, they'll never remember anything. And that was a moral panic back in the day. And I just
really, I didn't know that.
that
It's
really
amazing.
helps ground a lot of people when you talk about games or D&D. Like, yeah, people just love to kind of panic about stuff because it's new.
Yeah,
Typically, like,
yeah,
our present one is like, it was social media, which kind of then morphed into just screen time generically, despite the
yeah,
fact that people have always worked in offices and looked at screens since
yeah.
computers came into no one worries about that though. So it's
Well,
just
and
these
now
things.
it's AI.
Yes. So people love to get uppity about these things, and then because
Yeah,
research and funding cycles are slow, the actual research that comes out says no, actually, not as bad. Doesn't come out until much later, unfortunately. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, D and D moral panics. You gotta love it. Which tangentially brings us to one of your Jeremy. Bear me. I'm pre-recording these. Okay, don't hate on me. I'm writing a PhD thesis. You're on Natural Six, a new live action TTRPG format. Tell us about that.
Oh, man, I'm so excited about Natural Six. Um, Natural Six is the name of a group of six people, myself included, who have gathered together to go on Dungeons and Dragons adventures publicly. Um, so it started out with some conversations behind the scenes, and myself and Alex Jordan. Alex Jordan is a fellow actor, and he plays Mr. Hands in Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty, and among other things. He's in Gumball. I didn't know this until relatively recently. He plays several characters in Gumball, the cartoon series. And anyways, we were chatting and we were talking about our love for D&D, and he'd never played it. He just loved the idea of it. And he was like, "Oh, I'd love to play some D&D. Would you play some D&D with me sometime, Doug?" I said, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's find a time to play some D&D. That sounds great." And then he had a similar conversation with Ben Starr, who plays Clive in Final Fantasy 16. And Ben was the same. He's like, "Oh, I've never really played it, but I'd love to play it." And so Alex said, "Well, Doug would love to play it too. Maybe the three of us can get together." And then I think it was Ben talked with Harry McIntyre, who was in from Xenoblade Chronicles, and he also played one of the kings in the Last Kingdom TV series. And Harry, because I think Ben knew that Harry was a DM, and Harry was like, "Yeah, I'll run a campaign for you. Sure, that sounds like fun." And then somehow, I'm not quite sure how, but Eva Wilson from Eurogamer she got involved, and then Holly Bennett. I'm not putting these in absolute order. You know, the actual
Hmm.
order of conversation was much more organic and messy and all that stuff. You know, but so Holly Bennett from who's has been attached to Sony PlayStation, and she's works for Frontier at the moment, and um, we just all kind of got together and went, well, let's all play a game of D&D. And then I couldn't be at this particular meeting. We all arranged to get together at a pub in London just to have a chat.
I love
I
that it's in a
didn't
put.
know.
I just want to point that. I
Yeah,
love that. Let's go to the
has
pub.
to be at a pub.
That's
Yeah, if
incredible.
it's England, it has to be a pub. Well, if it's in the UK, it has to be a pub. Anywhere over here, it has to be a pub. Um, and so we arranged to meet up, but I couldn't make the meetup. So the five of them got together, and they ordered multiple bottles of rosé wine. And over rosé wine, they decided not only are we going to play Dungeons and Dragons, but we are going to stream it. Um, and then they told me afterwards, and I was like, uh, okay,
I mean, listen,
sure, let's go. All right, let's go. And so then we had a meeting all together online where we talked about it. Do we really want to do this? Are we going to do this? Yes, I think we want to do this. Okay, how do we do this? And it's grown and developed, and we did a Kickstarter, and we raised the money so that we could actually do it properly. And but in order to do that, we had to call in favors from friends, and we filmed a session zero, and we begged, borrowed, and stole people and time and cameras and equipment and everything else. And now we've got the money from the Kickstarter. We're paying those people back, and we've got the funds so that we can hire them so that they can film us actually doing this thing. And yeah, so we're called Natural Six, and we've all built our characters. And Harry has built an amazing world called Reliquiae. And we're in the pre-production stages now of planning the shoots and getting people in place and getting the branding, various bits of branding sorted out and stuff like that. And we're going to put this out there in sometime in the first quarter of 2024 is the plan.
if fate is on my side, this episode will go out around that time. So I'll keep things up crossed for that.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
it sounds like it's going to be incredible, and I think it just looks like for me, like I'd never played D&D. I've always wanted to. I played it like a little bit, and I've kind of grown into it myself over the past couple of years. But to see such a boom in popularity and joy the tabletop RPGs as a whole are bringing to people is immense. The fact that you can get together with a
yeah,
group like that, and let's be honest, all you're just gonna be sitting having fun, right? Like I know you're all
yeah,
actors, and it's gonna be very well produced and stuff, but ultimately, you're all there to have fun. That's gonna be
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. I tell you what, though, Chris, it's amazing. You have these ideas, you have ideas like this, and you kind of know in the back of your mind that there is real work to be done to make this happen. And we have put in real work, particularly Holly and Eva and Harry. I mean, we've all put in our 2 cents, and we've all helped in various ways. But those three in particular, because Harry's built the world, he's writing the campaign. Eva and Holly are just like dynamos of admin. And I don't mean not like, just paper pushing. It's like, getting people on board and making things happen and stuff like that. So, yeah, when we're playing, we're going to be having fun, but the amount of work that is going into those precious hours of just playing the game is quite astounding.
Oh, I mean, organize it. I mean, it's hard to get a few mates down the pub nowadays, let alone get together to film a rolling dice. So I can really empathize with that. I didn't mean to devalue that in any way.
Oh, no,
Um,
no, 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 I didn't feel you were at all. I just, what you said made me go, "Yeah, it's incredible. We are gonna play, but gosh, we're putting in a lot of work to have a bit of fun." We could have just played around the kitchen table and had a bit of fun behind closed doors, but no, we decided to that narcissist in us won, and we said, "No, we want people to watch us having fun."
I mean, If you're not monetizing your spare time, are you doing it right? You know,
Yeah,
like,
really. Yeah.
um, it's incredibly exciting, and I think it's going to be great. And I think I want to now use this as a springboard to go, because I love to then probe and go, okay, you said you love, D&D, and obviously you work on games. My go-to question is, does any of your enjoyment of those things become diminished when they become work? So like, do you find it harder to enjoy video games,
Yeah.
or even now D&D potentially because they're work?
No, I don't think it does. I think it has the potential to do that, but for me, at least so far, it doesn't. I mean, there are moments of frustration
Hmm.
when because it's like a scale. You have fun and you have work,
Hmm.
and they go hand in hand when you do something you love. And sometimes the work becomes more than the fun, and then it's frustrating because you want to have the fun. That's really why you're doing this thing. And sometimes the fun outweighs the work. So it does balance eventually. But yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say that there are times when I get frustrated. I mean, gosh, as an actor, self tapes are fantastic. It used to be if I got an audition for television or film or commercial or anything like that, I'd have to go to London. I don't live in London. I live outside of London, so it's a bit of a journey for me to get there. I'd have to go to London, have my 10 minutes in the room with the casting director, and then I go all the way back home. And, it's cost me money and time and everything else. Now we do self tapes. What a joy it is to do self tapes because I don't have to do all that travel. I can do as many takes as I want and send them the best one or the one I think is the best. It's a joy. It's great. I'll tell you what, though, sometimes it is a pain in the royal tush because you can't get your lighting right. The camera's not staying put. You've got shadows on the wall behind you. You don't want the shadows. You can't remember your lines. The dog barks in the middle of the best take. And I've had moments where I'm pulling my non-existent hair out, going, I hate self tapes. I could have just gone into a casting director's office and got it right or not got it right and walked away. But everything has its benefits and drawbacks. So
Out of interest, then, what is kind of your go-to activity to unwind? How do you then sort of, take a step back at the end of the day?
unwinding. I'm not very good at it, to be quite honest.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Doug. I kind of expected you to say that.
Yeah, I mean, I have lots of things I like to do, but I think I'm not a workaholic. I'm definitely not that because I don't like working either. So, I mean, I enjoy doing things that bring me pleasure of one kind or another.
Hmm.
I love playing video games. I love reading a good book. I love watching films and television, particularly fantasy. But I like a lot of things. I've been watching reruns of Silent Witness, the TV show,
Oh,
and it's
nice.
like 20 odd years of stuff to watch. My wife one day she just decided, yeah, I think I'll try Silent Witness. So she started at episode one, season one, episode one. And I haven't watched all of them, but I do love them. I love it. So I do
For
things like that
those
to
that
unwind.
don't know, like Silent Witness is a kind of like, I'm pretty sure it was like a BBC drama. It was like a British network drama, but it was
Yeah.
on the weekends, and it was like 2 hours on a Saturday. You had to tune in 2 hours on a Sunday to watch the conclusion. It might drag on to the next week, but it was like they were almost like miniature features, right? Each episode, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly,
Yeah.
and it was such a, like, truly a kind of format that's diminished in the stream it all in one go kind of thing that we can do now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember it being a very popular, very sort of, well revered show, I guess you might say.
Yeah, people loved it, and it's really well made. Um, I'm not sure where we are in the 20 odd years of the show now, because they make a series each year, and I think they're still making them. I'm not 100% sure about that though. But
No idea.
we've gotten to a relatively modern era now where the laptops look like the laptops that we use today, and the phones look like the phones we use today. So
Nice. Well,
yeah,
I
it
mean,
was interesting though watching it because when it first started out, the mobile phones were bricks. You know,
if you've never seen like Google like 80s mobiles, like mobile phones, like peeps, like if you're listening to it, you'll have a laugh. You'll enjoy it. Um, so obviously that's a great recommendation. Is there anything else you'd sort of recommend anyone to check out at the moment that you're enjoying?
for just for downtime,
Yeah, general media consumption.
media consumption. I've been listening to podcasts actually, ironically enough. Um, yeah, I've been really enjoying podcasts. There's this one I listen to that's really good. I don't know all the platforms. I listen to it on Prime,
Hmm.
but it could be on other platforms as well. And it's called Lore. And it's this guy named Aaron Menken, Aaron Menke. Uh, and he does this. It's amazing. It's a wonderful series. It's all about like superstitions and ghosts and goblins and just stuff like that. It's really cool. I've always been really interested in um, the occult and um, ghosts and ghosties and poltergeists and it's why I like Dungeons and Dragons so much.
Hmm.
But he goes to old legends and myths and things like that. Like he had a whole thing that was all about the Yeti and Bigfoot and those kinds of creatures. Fascinating. I just love it. It's great.
The
The
Yeti, one of my
podcasts are
one of my
great.
go-to Halloween costumes. I've got the
Yeah,
hair color for it, you know.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that or Chris Kringle.
Yeah, I mean, it December times. I do. I typically only in the workplace, but I do legitimately offer my colleagues like if you have younger family members who want a Zoom call with Santa, I'm available for a small fee. Guys got to eat. You know what I mean? I have the hat and everything. I could sell it. I can sell the look.
Oh man, Chris, there is a person. I do cameos, which personalized video messages for people.
Hmm.
They send me things and they want me to wish their brother or sister a happy birthday as Geralt or something like that. It's really fun to do. But I saw the other day on the leaderboard because they have this leaderboard for all the people who are doing cameos, so we can all kind of see who's doing the most cameos and stuff like that. And I saw that Santa was on there, so somebody is selling themselves as Santa on Cameo.
Stealing my gig,
Stealing your gig, man.
man.
Or
It's not.
you could get on and you could be like the younger, maybe go check him out. Maybe he's doing the older Santa. You could do like the younger Santa.
I mean, I'm never saying it. Would you want to hear like my Santa voice? I don't know. Is that
Sure,
wild? Should we?
yeah.
Let's do it live.
Yeah.
Ho, ho, ho! Hello, children! And what would you like for Christmas?
Oh, Santa! Oh, I want a wooden train and an Xbox and I want I want a gaming PC
Use
with
discount code Santa.
10,000 gigabytes of RAM.
It's still not enough. Not enough RAM.
That was very good. I like your Santa.
Thank you. I'd be abhorrent with myself. It'd be abhorrent for me to say, "Oh, I like to do voice acting," because I don't. I don't actually voice act. But what I enjoy about doing tabletop RPGs is really throwing myself into like the characters and doing
Yeah.
funny voices, right? Like I
Okay.
just enjoy doing that. It brings me great joy. Um, and it's just fun to do, right?
Yeah,
Uh, in
absolutely.
a recent charity game I did at the end of 2023, I played a half elf bard called Dob Billin that essentially sounded a bit like Matt Berry, but just quoted Bob Dylan lyrics at every opportunity. It was great. I had a harmonica and everything. You know what I mean? Like,
That's great. I love that. I mean, that's the great thing about RPGs is, especially the tabletop ones, is you can create any character you want, and then it's just, the only limits are your own imagination. I love that about Dungeons and Dragons and games like it. Um, and then, I always say to people who are just getting into it, sometimes they're afraid. They're like, I don't improvise well. I don't know if I can play my character, role play my character. And I'm like, well, you don't have to. You can just behave a little bit like them at the table if you want, or not at all. It's about having fun. And ultimately, what it's about is telling a story.
Mhm.
It's just collective storytelling.
I've like tried in the past to, because spoiler, I'm a podcast host, so this might come as a surprise, but I'm quite vocal in group settings.
Mm,
So I try then to play characters that are maybe more reserved, but then my desire to play well at D&D is like, GM, I have a question. Okay, but what about this though? And I end up being quite vocal, even if it's not in character. So like my
yeah,
characters maybe come across a bit edgelordy, but like as a player, I'm bubbling because I'm like, okay, well, could I do this? Can I roll for this? Um,
yeah,
and it kind of doesn't work when I want to give other people room, so I'm always very conscious of that. But
yeah.
it's just I love rolling dice. It's so good.
Oh, it's so fun. And I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 on a live stream recently, just for fun. And it is really fun actually when you roll the digital dice and you get that result you don't want. It's like, no. And what's lovely about a live stream, we're playing with people around a table, is that, you have those other people there to do the same thing with you. Oh, it's a critical fail. Oh no. What's gonna happen? We're all gonna get stepped on by a storm giant. We're jam.
And it can happen. Um, so my next sort of couple of official questions, they're a bit official, so apologies for that. But they're two of my favourites, and one of them is, if you had unlimited access to time, expertise, people, resource, what's one blue sky project you would like to do? And you can totally just be like natural six. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at the moment, natural six. I'd throw money at that if I could. Um, just to see where it would go.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, I mean, the thing is, there are so many worthy causes.
It's more
Um,
about like a project. If there's something that you kind of wanted to
projects.
do,
Okay, not a
or like
worthy cause necessarily, just something I want to do.
one blue sky idea you'd love to do if there was no limits.
See, if there's no limit, then I would cure cancer, or you
Fair.
know, you know what I mean. There have to be limits because otherwise, I'd want to do something miraculous.
No, that's
Um,
a totally valid answer in the context of what I'm asking. It's like if you had access, you
yeah,
would, I don't know, let contextualize it. Stay with me. Build a lab, get some researchers going on it, give them all the research grant money,
yeah.
like get people working on it.
I mean, Chris, if there's no limit, if Scott, if there is no limit to what I can do with my project, then I would open up a worldwide medical project that would just try to cure every single disease imaginable, including world hunger, and poverty and war. I would throw everything at just, trying to make the world a better, safer, nicer, healthier place.
I feel like if
It's
any of my previous guests now listen to this episode, they're gonna be like, "Oh no, why did I say like this fun thing I wanted to do? You've just gone in like, boom, yeah, I want to fix all the problems." Like,
Yeah, well, no limits. Yeah, fix it, fix the stuff that doesn't work right. Um, Now, if there are limits, depending on the limits, like if the limit is, uh, 50,000 pounds, then what I might do, depending on my mood and my wife's go ahead, would be build a building out back of our house for work.
mm-hmm.
I'd build a little studio, a little sound studio back in the garden, and it would have room for me and my wife to have, like proper admin working desks, and it would have a sound booth, and it would have a gaming area, and I could live stream from it, and it would also be where my kids could just go hang out and play. My kids are older now, so it's different kind of play. It's not like little kids. It's, I have a 21 and a 19-year-old. So it would be, they could go out there and play on the console or a PC or whatever, and a nice little escape with a little wood burner in the corner of the room.
Ooh, nice.
I mean, that's a nice, if I had money to throw at a personal project, that's what I
Hmm.
would probably throw it at.
I love that we went from solve world issues to something that you might get on an episode of, like, Reimagine the Garden, a fictional TV show. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, I'd love
absolutely.
to build a really good shed.
That's exactly it. I'd love to build a little man cave out in the garden. It wouldn't just be a man cave though. It would be a husband and wife cave. And it would have all the
An
things that we want.
entertainment grotto.
An entertainment grotto. But not just entertainment. It would have, it would have the ability to be our home office as well. Because
Hmm.
right now, to be quite honest, just for those watching this or listening to it, I'm speaking to you, Chris, from um, a lovely little enclave that I've created. My wife helped me create. It was her idea, actually, in a corner of our bedroom. We built a wooden frame and I got acoustic blankets, and but it's in the corner of our bedroom.
Hmm.
So, you know, I can be in here gaming as long as I'm not noisy after 10 o'clock at
Yeah,
night.
ain't that the reality of life, right? Okay, no,
Yeah.
I love that. I love those two different answers, but they're both very, like, they felt very genuine, which I think is important for the question, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
my second one is, and I think I'll be honest, this is my personal favorite question I ask on this show, is is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to who you feel maybe doesn't necessarily get enough love? Like any sort of person or group of people, I'll say, just to give a little shout out to.
Somebody who doesn't get enough love. Oh my God. That's such a
I'll preface that with, Doug, I very much get the impression that they get a lot of love from you. I very much get that vibe that you are very sort of lovely with your friends and whatnot. But
well, most of the people I know, or a lot of my friends are performers and they get a lot of love.
mhm.
Um, I can think of a lot of people who I'd love to give more love to. But in the spirit of the question, I I think I think I would want to give extra love to my wife actually.
Mhm.
Um, because she's not a public person. She doesn't get um I get the wonderful joy of people telling me they like my work all the time. She doesn't get that so much. I mean, I can say to her, "Good job. You did a really great job." I probably don't do that nearly enough. Um, but she does some amazing stuff. And I don't just mean, keeping me and her 3 boys, we've got a dog as well, keeping us all in line. She does amazing at that, but she's an amazing person and she doesn't really get enough um public acknowledgement for all that she does. So I'd give that extra love to her.
I'll be honest with you, Doug. I'm feeling away. That was very lovely. And again, like, just a really nice answer like that. That's why I love this question. I feel like it brings the best out of an already brilliant guest that I'm chatting with. And it's just so nice to
It's a good
hear
question.
the way people
Yeah.
approach it. It's just so nice. You know what I mean? I haven't had one of those that I've been disappointed by so far.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to some of your podcasts, find out what other people have said now.
That's great.
Curious now.
So I then like to as we begin to wrap up, I like to ask a little bit some fun quick fire questions. So you're going to
Go
a
for it.
biome of your choice. You can disclose what that environment is. I personally wouldn't go to a desert island. That's just me. I'll be no probs. You know what I mean? But you can take with you one film, one album, one book, and one game. The rules are everything will work magically. There's enough power, energy, internet connection, etc. If it is sold as one collection, you can have it. Collection of books, a film series, a TV show, right?
Hmm.
But what are you taking with you? What are your choices?
For a book, I would take. I mean, there's so many great books to take. I would take. It's a toss up. I think I would take Lord of the Rings.
Ooh, nice.
I was tossing that one up with the complete works of Shakespeare. Um, because I love them both. I haven't even read all of Shakespeare's plays. I've read a lot of them, and I love his work, and I love performing in Shakespeare's work. Um, but I think I would take Lord of the Rings because I just love it. I
Perfectly,
just love it.
perfectly valid.
Film, film, I would take. Um,
You can have a TV show. I feel like you're gonna have a film, but I like to give the option.
these are such hard questions. Especially on the spot. If you give me, well, you did. You told me you were
Ah,
going to ask me this question, but I forgot about it. Um,
you're not the first guest to have their reaction. I'll tell you.
yeah. Film or television? Okay, today, how I'm feeling today. I think today I would take today. Maybe I'm feeling Christmassy. I think I would take Love Actually with me.
Okay. For listeners' discretion, we are recording this in December, so that's a legit choice.
Hmm.
Don't get
And Love
randomly feeling
Actually is,
Christmassy in March. Don't worry.
yeah, I'm feeling it's on my mind. My oldest son saw it with friends recently again and was talking about it. So maybe it's just on my mind, but also it's filled with actors who I really, really admire.
Hmm.
I really love their work. And I mean, Emma Thompson, I just love her. Um, and y- so yeah, so today I would take Love Actually. Um, what did you ask? Album.
Album.
U2's Unforgettable Fire, I think.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was gonna say that sounded like quite a firm choice, and then maybe not sure.
Well, there's so many good ones, but I think because that one holds a very, very special place in my heart, um, in my musical heart. I think that's the one I would take. U2's Unforgettable Fire.
Is there a
And
this is a tangential thing, but is there
mm,
something that makes a good album for you?
I think so much of that is just right place, right time. An artist puts out something that they believe in and it lands at a
Hmm.
particular time and place in a person's life. And that's what makes it special. Um, mm,
I mean, that's a cracking answer. I'll be fair. Like, you know, I was just curious.
yeah. Because
Um,
I mean, the artist makes it special, and what they were trying to communicate makes it special. But what makes it special to the listener is not the artist or the music necessarily. It is all that, of course, but it's what that music, what that message meant to them at that point in time of their life.
mhm.
Um, and that's what makes an album special.
And then last but certainly not least, what game are you taking?
Now it would be easy to say The Witcher, wouldn't it?
You could troll everyone and be like Witcher
Um,
4, be like, wait.
yeah, I don't know. What game would I take with me? What game? I think I would want a game with scope,
Hmm.
and I would want a game. Actually, maybe I would take The Witcher, but it would be as a package. It would be Witcher 1, 2, and 3, and the DLCs. It would be the whole shebang.
I'm sure there's a button on Steam you can press to get all of them in one go. I'll give you that. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
no
Thank you.
worries. See, you can't say I'm not an amenable host in these fictional worlds I'm creating, right? Um, my last sort of formal question is, do you have any questions for me? Now, I have had the "What's your PhD about?" question, and how's it going? Never ask a PhD student that. Absolutely awful. And I've been asked a biodome question, and I've been asked what am I looking forward to, sort of fairly recently as well. So anything else, feel free to turn the tables and ask me something.
Okay. Um, can I ask you two? They're relatively simple ones.
Doug, for you, of course.
Okay, okay. First one is, how do you keep your beard so bloody neat? Look at that. It is amazing. What is your secret to keeping that looking so pristine?
So I'll fully be honest. I was in the barber's not 2 days ago, and I had the full haircut. My barber does a hair and beard service. The service I had was
Oh,
called Beard Envy. So like I had a beard oil, moisturizer, blade shave, trim down. Um,
oh,
I don't use like a lot of product on my beard. I do use a particular beard foam that both smells nice and keeps it quite nice. So you got me on a good day. I'm freshly preened, if you will, but
no, that's good though. That's a
generally
good answer.
generally just sort of like trying to treat it as part of your general hair care slash facial care is how I kind
Uh-huh.
of approach it. Like if I'm moisturizing my face, but make sure I moisturize the beard as well, and combing it. I feel like not enough people actually comb their beards.
I never think about combing my beard. I don't have a beard. I just have like the beginnings of a beard at the moment. But when I do have a beard, I never think about combing it.
I find that helps just generally with mine. But that was a great question.
Okay, well, my second one is along the same lines, but it's a little bit less personal, perhaps, or more personal, depending on how you think about it. So, when you take a bath, Chris,
Yeah.
assuming that you do take baths occasionally, when you take a bath, what is your go-to bath product to put in your bath?
Oof. Okay, so this is not a sponsored episode,
No.
but I am maybe of the ilk. It's something that my family have always done. But one of the Radox bath blends, like your like childhood
Nice.
memories of Radox Blue Muscle Soak. You know,
Oh, yes. I like
yes,
that one.
you know
That's a
what I
good one.
mean. I like to
Yeah.
experiment with the other colors, like the red and you call them flavors for no reason. I know you don't eat them. I'm not daft, but like the lavender sleep time one is very nice. I like to have a bath, usually weekly as an unwind thing. I have a nice bath
Yeah.
caddy and I watch something on my tablet and I unwind. It's something just for me that I quite like to do. But yeah,
Yeah.
stick a bit of Radox in there, maybe some bath salts, because it sounds daft, but I have to be quite selective with what products I use because I've got such sensitive skin. So when I find something that I
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I tend to just stick with it. I'm a lifelong customer by default because if it works, I'm
Yeah.
sticking with it.
I bought some bath salts at a store recently. They just looked good. And the description of the smell sounded really nice. It was like geranium and um geranium, some wood and some, like three particular scents. I thought, oh, that sounds like a nice combination. And I took a bath just on Friday night. And I was like, oh, this is so nice. It had been a while since I'd taken a bath. So I think that, yeah, that's probably why I asked you, because I was like, you know, I, I'm kind of jonesing for another bath now. It's
you
been
you
three,
looked at
four
me and was
days, and
like,
I'm
I
like,
bet I bet Chris is a gentleman that bathes.
yeah, well, look at the way you keep your beard. I thought he's got a nice, neat beard. I bet he likes a good bath.
It's just something for the soul. It's like that. There's that Twin Peaks
Mm,
quote. It's like Dale Cooper, Kyle MacLachlan, and he's like, just the secret to a happy life is just once a day doing a little thing for yourself that makes you
mm,
happy. Doesn't matter how big or small
absolutely.
that is. But like mine is a weekly bath. I have mine on a Wednesday night. I don't mind disclosing, just because it breaks up the week, and I sleep
Now
quite
we all
well.
know we can all show up at Chris's house on Wednesday night for bath night.
I'm there like running out the back because I hear the door going like. Everyone's gonna be popping in my DMs. It's Wednesday night,
Wednesday night.
I'm just, what's gonna happen now? Because I'm just gonna get that photo of Geralt in the tub. People are just gonna spam me with that, aren't they? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 But you'll be like, rather than a drink, you'll be holding the muscle soak.
Oh, hey, I'm partial to enjoying a refreshing beverage in the bath because obviously I'm, a white presenting guy with a beard that wears jumpers. So I also like craft ale, because of course I do. And there's nothing better than enjoying a refreshing beverage in moderation in the bathtub.
Well, there you go. Cheers. Here's to a refreshing beverage in the bath.
Cheers.
This is
There we go.
peppermint tea, but there you
I'm on water, but it's all good. The sentiment is the same, right? I'll take a sip actually.
go.
There we go. And last but certainly not least, where are people able to find you on the internet? Where's the best place?
Oh, you can find me in the Matrix at you can find me on Twitter. I'm at dcockle on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just Doug Cockle on Instagram. And I've just started streaming on Twitch, and you can find me on there as Doug Cockle Games.
All those
So
links
when
will
this
be
comes out in
attached wherever you
March,
found it.
hopefully, yeah. And do look up Natural Six as well. We've got all of the stuff that we've done so far on YouTube. And hopefully February, March 2024, we'll be live streaming our Dungeons and Dragons gameplay.
Well, Doug, thank you for joining me. I've really enjoyed this. I hope you have, and I hope the listeners at home, the watchers have as well. All it remains for me to do is say goodbye to them, flick over to the ending screen as we do, and say goodbye. So thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.